Hello, today we're going to be solving quadratic equations using the quadratic formula. So, what do I mean by the quadratic formula? The quadratic formula is what I have on the screen right here. And so, this ax squared plus bx plus c is what we want our equation to look like. So before we can start our quadratic equation, let's look like that. Your first term is your x squared term, then your second term is your regular x term, last term is your number equals 0 in that order. Once you have your equation looking like that, sometimes it'll start like that, sometimes you'll have to make it look like that yourself, you can then plug the coefficients a, b, and c into the quadratic formula, which I'm going to box in red. Negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac all in a square root, divided by 2a. Notice the plus or minus sign here in the middle. That means you need to do the plus version of the top part of the fraction as well as the minus version of the top part of the fraction. So you're going to get two answers for most of these. Doing everything for the quadratic formula by hand can be a little time consuming and a little tedious. So you might have noticed that I have Desmos pulled off to the side here. We're going to be using Desmos once we have our a, b, and c plugged in. Most of this will make a lot more sense if we have things with an actual problem. So let's take a look at some examples. So here's my first one. X squared minus 2x minus 15 equals 0. Do I have things in the right order? Yes, I do, because I have my x squared. Remember, we want ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. We have that, so we are good to go. So I can go ahead and label whatever my a, b, and c are. A for this problem is the number in front of x squared. Since you don't see a number there, our a is 1. B is the number in front of regular x, so in this part it's negative 2. And c is the number term without any x's in it, so negative 15. I'm going to go ahead and write out our formula just so we can see it. That's an a there. And you can't really do anything in Desmos just yet. Instead, we need to plug in a, b, and c ourselves. So minus sign comes first. First thing that goes in is negative b, so negative 2 goes here, plus or minus square root. B is still negative 2, make sure you put it in parentheses because it's getting squared, minus 4. A is 1, C is negative 15, make sure those both go in parentheses too, all divided by, make sure that fraction bar goes underneath everything, 2 times A, which once again is 1. So from here we're going to have Desmos do the heavy lifting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type into Desmos exactly what I've written, except for when I get to the plus or minus sign, because we can't really do that. This whole thing is one giant fraction. To get a fraction done in Desmos, the first thing you're going to do is hit your division key. Then start typing in the top part of your fraction. Negative 2. We can only do plus or minus. We can't do both at the same time. So I'm going to do plus first, square root, and the square root will get bigger as you type stuff into it. Parentheses negative 2, close your parentheses, squared, minus 4, parentheses 1, parentheses negative 15, and I'm done with the top part of my fraction. So if I click in that gray part in the bottom, it will type in the bottom, 2 parentheses 1. When I do that, Desmos spits out an answer at me, which is 5. So one of my solutions is x equals 5. However, notice I said one of my solutions. If you think back to when we graph quadratics, a lot of times quadratics have 2 solutions. The way you get that other solution is by looking at the plus or minus sign. You need to do the plus version of the top part of the fraction as well as the minus version. So what I'm going to do, instead of typing everything all over again, is I'm going to go back into what I typed in before and change that plus sign into a minus sign, because that's the only thing that changes. That means my other solution is x equals negative 3. Again, you could do a lot of simplification by hand or with a handheld calculator, but using Desmos makes it a whole heck of a lot easier. Let's try a few more. Okay, looking at this one, we want to make sure that our equation looks like this time it's a v instead of an x, not a big deal. A v squared plus bv plus c equals 0. Do we have things in that order? Yes, we do. So we can go ahead and label our a, b, and c. A in this problem is 6. It's the number in front of v squared. B in this problem is the number in front of v, which is 3. And c is the number at the end of your equation before the equal sign, which is negative 30. I'm going to do v equals this time just to be consistent. If you wrote x equals every time, I would not count that against you. Okay, there's my formula. Now we can go ahead and plug things in. So v equals negative, b is 3, so negative 3, plus or minus square root. Once again, we're looking for b. B is 3, put it in parentheses, squared, minus 4. A is 6, put that in parentheses. C is negative 15, or sorry, negative 30. I don't know why I said negative 15. Put that in parentheses. All divided by division bar goes everything after the equal sign. 2 times a, which once again is 6. All right, we know from here that we can have Desmos do the heavy lifting for us. Let's start with the plus sign version. So once again, to get that big fraction, type in your division sign. Negative 3, we're typing in the top of the fraction, plus square root, parentheses 3 squared, minus 4, parentheses 6, parentheses negative 30. We're done with the top part of our fraction. Click in the gray box to do the bottom part of our fraction, 2 parentheses 6. And Desmos tells us that when we do the plus sign version, one of our solutions is v equals 2. We still need to do the minus sign version. Just remember how we deal with that. Instead of typing in everything all over again, just change your plus sign to a minus sign. So I'm going to change that plus into a minus. Then it tells me when I do the negative version or the minus version, I get negative 2.5. Sometimes you'll get fractions or decimals. Desmos will give them to you as decimals. That's perfectly fine. Okay, this one is everything in the right order. We would want something x squared plus something x plus number equals 0. We don't have equals 0, and the dead giveaway there is after the equal sign we have the negative 12x. So we need to move that. The way that we move that is we add or subtract. We do the opposite like we normally do whenever we're solving an equation. So to move that 12x to the other side, since it's negative, I need to add 12x to both sides. When you do that, make sure you go ahead and write everything in the correct order. So over here on the right-hand side, they're going to cancel, so it's going to equal 0. That part's easy. Left-hand side, we want our x squared term first, then our regular x term, then minus 80. Notice that none of those were like terms, so we don't have to worry about combining any like terms. We're just putting things in the right order. Now that we have everything in the right order, my a is 2. My b is 12, my c is negative 80. So we're in business. Just writing out the formula so we have it in front of us. Let's start plugging things in. So first up is negative b, so negative, now we're looking at our new version of our equation, so negative 12 plus square root, b is still 12, put it in parentheses, squared, minus 4, parentheses, a was 2, parentheses, c is negative 80, all divided by 2 times a, which is once again 2. And I forgot my plus or minus, that's a bad deal. Okay, so type everything into Desmos. We're going to do the plus sign version first. To get that big fraction, hit your division key. So negative 12 plus square root 12 in parentheses squared minus 4 times 2 times negative 80. That finishes off the top of our fraction. Down in our denominator, click down there, 2 parentheses 2. And Desmos says that we get 4 for one of our answers. Remember, we usually have 2. To get our other one, we just need to do the minus version, so change our plus sign into a minus sign. And our other solution is x equals negative 10. We're going to do one more just to make sure we're really, really, really awesome at this. We'll build on this a little bit more in the future. All right, last one for today. So again, we need to make sure that things look like something x squared plus something x plus number equals 0. We don't have equals 0. In fact, we have minus 7. To undo minus 7, we add 7 to both sides. When I do that, after the equal sign will be 0 like I want. Before the equal sign, I need to do my x squared term first, then my regular x term, then my number term. Now things are in the right order, so A is 5, B is positive 12, and C is positive 7. Write out our formula. Let's plug things in. So first up is negative b, so that's going to be negative 5 plus or minus. B is still 5, put it in parentheses, squared, minus 4, parentheses a is 5, parentheses c is 7, all divided by 2 times a, which is still 5. And now let's type it in. Division key to get your big fraction. Now let's type in the top of our fraction. Let's do the plus sign version first. Make sure you get all your parentheses in there. Down in the denominator is 2 parentheses 5. Uh-oh, Houston, we have a problem. Oh, I see what I did. My b is not 5, my b is 12. So, moral of the story here is make sure you have the right numbers in the right places. B should be 12. So I need to change both of these to 12s. My bad. Don't do what I do. So, if you ever run into a problem, make sure your A, B, and C are in the right spots. So this should be a 12. This should be a 12. Much better. So one of our solutions is x equals negative 1. And then last but not least, we need to do the minus sign version, change the plus sign to a minus sign. Our other answer is negative 1.4. That is it for quadratic formula. I hope you have a fantastic